Okay, it's 7 p.m. I'd like to call the public hearing to order for the Ordinance Committee on Monday, January 28th. There's no one signed up, so I will take a do I need a motion to close it? Okay. I'm going to be at 7:01. I'm hereby closing the public hearing on today's meeting. You want that now? Okay. I am going to forward the public hearing portion of the meeting over to Attorney Florek for some clarification.
Yes, Madam Chairman. The first item, an ordinance amending sections 152-8 and 152-9 of the Town Code that appears on the notice of public hearing is in error. It really is an ordinance amending sections 152-28 and 152-29 of the Town Code. So what should be done is that this should be referred to next month's Ordinance Committee for a public hearing, and that the correct sections of the code should be noted.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to do that?
Motion to follow Attorney Florek's guidance. We'll carry it over to the next meeting for 28 and 29.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Dean, thank you. So the first item of our agenda is being forwarded. Excuse me. Back to the public hearing at another time.
Yes, correct.
So now I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Ordinance Committee, Monday, January 28th at 7:02 p.m. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting on November 26th? Thank you. And seconded by Mr. Perillo?
Second.
I think it's already seconded. Yep, sorry. Is there any discussion? Take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. There's no unfinished business for item 3. In item 4, we are going to pass over item A and move on to item B, an ordinance amending section 152-7 of the Town Code. Is there a motion? Mr. O'Connor. Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Kadim, any discussion?
If I may, Madam Chairman, this came from the Waterfront Harbor Management Commission, and what they've done, the new portion of this ordinance is the second sentence, where they have made clear that the fishing will be allowed and the adjacent parking area will be open for that purpose for 24 hours on a 24-hour basis, but for any other activities will only be open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's the purpose of this amended ordinance.
But there's no way it could be physically closed, right? I mean, bond stock?
No, but it would give some, violators would now be subject to some enforcement.
For the police, okay. Is there any other discussion? If there's no further discussion, I would like to ask for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
And that would be the motion would be to refer to the council for a second reading with a favorable recommendation.
Okay, that's so noted. Thank you. I'm going to move on to item C. This is an ordinance amending the Chapter 55 of the Town Code, 18-17. This is on the barbering and the cosmetology. Is there a motion to discuss? Or a motion?
Yes. They already have it on the books. They're just shoring it up a little differently or wording it a little differently. Because I know
Let's get the motion, Wally, and the second, and then we can discuss it.
I'll second it.
Seconded, and now any discussion?
Yes, and just before you begin, Wally, Andrea is here from the Health Department. Okay, we've got a host of people from the Health Department who can testify as to the necessity for these changes. Essentially, what they've done is they've updated it and brought it basically into the 21st century.
Okay.
So
Great, thank
they're here to answer any questions.
So Andrea, if you don't mind, I'm glad you're here tonight. Thank you. If you want to maybe just go over some of the main issues of why this is necessary, thank you.
Sure. So we've been working on updating this code for about 3.5 years and looking at specifically nail salons. We've had some pretty bad non-compliance and wanting to, meet the salons where they are and try and figure out how we can best do that. We've done some quality improvement projects. We've done some, evaluations. And one of the things that we thought we would do is to streamline the code so that it's clear, concise, and does allow for a little bit more enforcement. One of the things that we did earlier on was we, as part of our accreditation process, we reached out to the regulated community, including hair salons, barbershops, nail salons, and so forth, and asked them some questions, about customer satisfaction. And we specifically asked both hair salons and nail salons about fees or fines. So, for instance, if there's an unlicensed barber, did people think it was fair that we would just, cite them and the barber wouldn't be able to practice, but no fine or penalty was included? And now we're suggesting that there is a fine for an unlicensed barber. Maureen has our fee schedule, so we have, some updated fees. And with the nail salons, we wanted to be very specific and clear about what were critical violations and which were those that were imminent health threats, because no one wants a nail fungal infection. We've had several attorneys, come and FOIA our records for people who have said that they've gotten, an infection. And so we've done some training and classes. We hold a training class for nail technicians, and we do it in 5 different languages. So we meet the salon owners where they are in Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Spanish, and English. And the last training that we had, we also had on-site interpreters, because just because we put a PowerPoint up in Korean doesn't necessarily mean that, I certainly don't speak Korean. My Spanish is pretty good, but I don't speak some of those other languages, so.
Yes, do you feel it was effective speaking with them? But before we even get to that, let's just slow down a little bit. You say in the ordinance 55 of town number 18-17, right? Is it in a packet? Because I didn't see it. Page 5. Okay, thank you. Because I was looking. Thank you. I see it down here. Okay, equipment.
So Andrea, these facilities are all state licensed as well, right? These are
no, so we license the facility, and nail technicians used to be licensed by the state, but they no longer are licensed. Although the state legislative session has been kicked off, and there are several proposals to license nail technicians. Barbers are licensed by the state, but we, the local health department licenses the actual facility. So our job is to make sure that, they have clean facilities, that they have hand washing facilities, in whatever service they're doing, they have the equipment to do that service properly. So you have a pedicure station and a manicure station and things like that, waxing.
Just an update for the barbers. There's a few of them in town I actually know. Does it change what was already there, or is just more attentive to the time limit of the time to clean it up or getting accordance to the new ruling? They have time to, say for example, you come, you write them up for a violation. Mm-hmm. Is it shorter time to clean it up, or they have the same amount of time? What's the difference? Because I'm quite sure I was told that it already had stringent laws in place for them to operate.
Right. so the timeframe hasn't changed. I mean, it really depends on what the violation is. If they have an unlicensed barber, they need to stop cutting hair, and they're not allowed to continue.
I mean,
So if they have you know, say they have some equipment that's not appropriate, or, you know, I mean, they have to be able to replace that. And you, Maureen, maybe can speak more specifically to, I don't know about a specific. Yeah.
okay, thank you. That's just my concern, because quite naturally, I use the barber with my son. He goes there. I just want to make sure they're not hurt too much. Of course, I want them to comply with everything, because it's important to go somewhere where you know you have a licensed barber, as well as clean tools and such. So you don't want to be,
It's
you
important.
know, hurt by any of those things. But thank you,
Sure.
guys.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
Chairman,
Yes.
Andrea, is it possible to like use an example that within all these paragraphs of where you made a revision, where a gap existed or there was an obsolete rule that you, because I'm not seeing red lines so much as I'm seeing the whole ordinance.
So we supplied the redlined version.
You should have in front of you an ordinance with everything that's being deleted has a line through it, striking it out, and everything new has an underline, an underscore.
That's,
I'm not seeing that.
I don't have it for this particular ordinance.
So we provided the. You want to pass?
I have it for the other one.
We don't have that.
So, okay. So I'm passing around the red line version. To give you, oh. Although this is a draft, so this is an example that highlights things that changed. Give you some. So, you know, for instance, we added a definition for laser hair removal because it's come to our attention that there was a facility that offered laser hair removal. And while I don't want to get into the business of licensing a medical spa, there is a spa in town that only does laser hair removal, but it needs to be done in a particular manner to meet state code, where the person who does the laser hair removal, I don't know how to know this, that they are a medical practitioner, so they are either an APRN or a physician. So a nurse or just, you know, a esthetician or cosmetologist cannot do laser hair removal. So that's one example where we've added that definition. Section 55-2, plan review. We wanted to be clearer about when you make changes to your facility, that you needed to come in. I don't believe that the prior one had where we could, where we would do a plan review, because you want people to come into the health department saying, hey, I want to open up a nail salon. What do I need to do? Well, you need to, show us the layout of your facility and say, well, and what are the services that you're offering? Because if you're offering, say, for instance, waxing, you need specific equipment, and and if you have multiple rooms in your establishment, you need to have hand washing sinks in each of those rooms. And being able to do a plan review, we can look at that 55-6. We needed a little bit more regulatory teeth. I don't know if that's a real term, but because if we needed to be able to talk about license suspension and revocation. Did you want to talk about? Yeah, yeah. I don't know if that helps. Let's see, what else? Wanted to be clear in terms of what constitutes an imminent health hazard. An unlicensed technician. Failure to comply. I know that seems simple, but failure to comply with a scheduled inspection to determine code compliance. When we had some difficulty with an establishment opening up, that every time we made an appointment to make an inspection, they never showed up, so it makes it a little bit difficult. Identifying critical violations, you know, we were wanting to be, you know, I don't know. And then section 55-10 specifically identifies fees or penalty fees for violations.
So,
Question through the chair.
go ahead.
So, Andrea, if you don't mind, just on 5510 penalties and fees, what changes do we have, I guess?
So in the other three-pager that has the actual fees, you'll see a list on the back.
Yep.
Those are the penalty fees that we've added. You know, operating without a license, it happens more often than you think. You know, having an unlicensed professional, performing the service not listed on your license. So, for instance, if you're you have a massage therapist, but your facility is not licensed for massage therapy, you know, that's an issue.
So, I have a quick question.
Yes.
These licenses, do they need to be displayed at the
Yes.
facilities, and then you go around and inspect them, or do you wait for a complaint? Do you
Well,
go,
So if they've been licensed with us, so they have an annual license, that gets renewed.
and they could be, then the licenses are displayed for customers to see?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And we go, and for nail salons, we do, it's once a year, is it twice a year? Twice a
Okay.
year. Or
Okay.
if there's a complaint, so if there was a complaint, then we follow that up
Okay.
and do another inspection.
Do you know how many salons we have in our town?
We have
Do we have a-
7,
Yeah, well, like
we have
who would-
16.
16, okay. Wow. Okay, wow.
Madam Chair, question through the chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Andrea, it seems to me, just reading these, the penalty fees, 1 through 8, correct? Okay. They all seem very straightforward to me. Just can you explain the failure to appear at a scheduled appointment without 24-hour prior notice? Is that pertaining to scheduled appointment with the health department?
Yes.
Okay, I'm fine with that then.
We have several on salons in Stratford. So we can't just kind of walk in during all business hours.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Yes, Council.
Thank you, Chair. 15-12, it says facilities. Every barbershop, hairdressing, shall have, and then there's a list 1 through 13 of, did that materially change with the current version?
I
Right,
think
so
that-
having water supply, water disposal, plumbing
That's all
fixtures.
rather consistent?
Yes, yep.
Okay, thank you.
So, anybody else? Go ahead.
Andrea, over the past year, have you had to assess fees a number of times?
Well, the prior ordinance did not
Oh.
allow me to do that.
Okay, so then who will collect the fee or enforce it in the,
The health department. So if, you know, if they've had, you know, if they've violated, so for instance, if we find an unlicensed professional in their salon, and by that, that's really, right now, it's for barbers or hairdressers, you know, we would send them an invoice, you know, we would cite them, and we would, you know, send them invoice, just like we do when, you know, if someone fails their restaurant inspection, we come back, you know, we give them the list of their violations, and we do a reinspection, and then we send them an invoice for a reinspection
Okay.
fee.
Are there any other questions? Go ahead.
One more, thank you, Chair. On the list of licenses, and this is the farmer's market, a non-farmer is $100, but a farmer does not need to pay for a permit in order to display at a farmer's market?
The farmer will actually go to a singular entity in the state. So typically, farmers go to Greenwich because they have the cheapest farmer's market, farmer's license. It's a portable license. So they'll get their license in Greenwich, and it will be usable, portable throughout the state.
Thank you.
That's just for the farmer.
just for the, right.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Finish? Yes, in terms of the breakdown that the lawyer has, this additional paper was just giving the highlights of the changes, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't really need that to see one from the other.
Right, I will note that that was written a while ago, so it did refer to medical spas, and we only included definition on a medical spa under laser hair removal, so we do not regulate medical spas.
So the draft that you have in your hand, this is more information in terms of that, just missing the laser part, right?
It's really just it takes the section and just puts it, like, these are the sections that we substantively
No, I understand
changed.
that. I understand that, but that's why I'm saying it would have been better to have the draft to see what the changes were instead of trying to
I
match it
understand
up
that.
with this one and that one.
I provided the red-lined version so that you could see
We just
what
didn't get it.
each section we changed.
Yeah,
And
I
so
don't have
It's
that.
being passed,
I don't have that.
I don't know what to tell you.
We'll have it sent to us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
you're
mean,
gonna vote
so-
on something after you're gonna vote on it and then wait for it to come? That don't even make sense. Gotta see it first and then vote on it.
So I mean, I can come back.
That's just
next-
how I look at it.
I can come back next month if that
No,
makes
no, I'm
it
saying-
easier.
Look at all of this.
Honestly, it was, and maybe I'll rethink how I do another ordinance revision, because the food code's gonna come up pretty soon, because the state has adopted by reference the FDA food code, so we might change how we do it so that it's easier, but it seemed like it was just gonna be nothing but a spaghetti mess, frankly.
Thank you very much. It was brought to my attention. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, are we ready to make a decision on this ordinance? All in
Yes.
favor, and I think we're moving this is this a second reading? This is,
You're moving it to a second reading at the council.
at the council. Is there a motion to do that?
So move.
And a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for being here, Andrea. I appreciate all the information, and we'll get that red line version out to everybody.
It was already emailed to us. It's just,
Okay.
you get so much stuff you read and
Yeah.
don't favor.
Okay. Well, the next one is a large one as well, and you all should have gotten that edited version as well, and that's item D, an ordinance amending the sections 13312, 15, 16, and 182-13 of the town code. Is there a motion to discuss this?
Motion to move.
Thank you. A second? Mr. Connor. Discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So I have a few questions on this, because this is something that I worked with the administration to bring to the ordinance committee in terms of some minor revisions due to some of the complaints that I've continuously gotten from constituents. Questions will be mainly for Town Attorney Florek, if you would indulge me, sir. First thing I just wanted to ask, and actually this was brought up today by a constituent, is, and maybe this is outside the realm of this ordinance, but if the enforcement agency that we'll discuss further in the ordinance were to witness someone regarding animal droppings on a public or private property, and then were to blatantly disregard the picking up of those, is that something that can be enforced in terms of this ordinance, or is that something that we would refer to the previously mentioned one?
There is a specific ordinance for that.
Okay.
And so this ordinance doesn't cover that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next question on it is commercial handbills. So this is the main reason that this came up by numerous people to me over the last year, is the best way to describe them is the little blue plastic bags of coupons that are thrown at the end of driveways that are not newspapers, not Connecticut Post, nothing else, but are thrown at the end of driveways, in lawns, in the middle of streets, in the sewer drains, was one of the biggest reasons that this has been brought up to me. I personally witnessed it in my own home. So I would like some clarity, I guess, on that. In speaking to various departments, I do know that and also being chairman for the WPC, I do know that they have consistently gotten stuck in the sewer drains and can wash down the sewers. Also, it was raised to me by a homeowner that was very upset for many years about this because down on Shoreline Drive, they own a property that they only use in the summertime. Throughout the other 7 months of the year, these get distributed at their front doorstep, and when they're not around because they live in another town, it can show to anybody potentially canvassing a neighborhood that there's no one living there, so aka it's a security concern, and I do understand that personally. The main piece of this was bringing up that type of, as we labeled it here, as commercial handbills and moving it into litter. I'm not trying to hurt anyone that's making a living based off of their form of marketing. Thank you, Madam Chair. And in no way. But I wonder if we can come to some understanding as a town that we can possibly enforce this a little bit better to, A, protect people's homes potentially, B, it doesn't get stuck in our sewer system, which causes problems and costs us money in the long run, and C, really just cleans up people's property. You can go down anybody's street and on a Monday morning, and there's 13 of these things littered in the middle of the street, and I've taken pictures of it personally. So wanted to bring that up. Enforcement, I had a couple questions on, and this really is beyond just the commercial handbills aspect, but more importantly, in terms of the whole ordinance, regarding the enforcement of this. You know, we have an excellent resource in town as the blight officer. Giving some more enforcement abilities to that individual, I think makes a lot of sense, being that it's up his alley or her alley.
If I can stop you.
Yeah.
I discussed with the mayor's office this morning that a better way to handle it, and simpler way to handle it, rather than designating a specific individual, is simply leave the ordinance the way it is, the mayor or his or her designee, and let the mayor designate whatever agency or official that she wants to enforce it.
I'm fine with that. Could we also potentially, and maybe this is a conversation we have with the administration, but also we have the resources already of the traffic authority. Could we work with the traffic authority to assign them ability to issue litter tickets?
Yeah, if you accept my proposal and my discussion with the mayor's office, the mayor could designate any employer, official, or agency in town to do it. So yes, the traffic authority certainly could do that if that's who the mayor wanted to.
That's perfect.
Fulfill that.
So thank you, John. So really, my only conversation is regarding the handbills and how we can make this work for everybody.
Yes, Councilor King.
Thank you, Chairman. To Chris's point, those packets that are left in the plastic bags, that form of marketing, is that a handbill as defined by this ordinance? Because it is a town-wide problem. I just wanted to see if
It is, yeah.
I think it falls in that description.
Yes, the definition would seem to be general enough so that that type of an item does fall within that designation.
The attorney, through the chair, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
All said, great. I read the handbill definition numerous times to make sure I try to understand it. I just want to be very clear that it doesn't impact, we're not taking an ordinance that would impact, any mom and dad walking down the street with their kids or trying to hand out, school play literature about their children's plays or non-for-profits that in the community. I don't want to impact any of them in this. It's not geared towards that. And I wasn't 100% confident with the language that it wouldn't.
If you look at the list of prohibited activities that are later on in the ordinance, you will see that the activities that are prohibited are basically throwing or depositing these types of items on private property, in parks, in streets, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't impact people going from door to door and handing handbills or putting them in somebody's door. The language would seem to me to be such that in order to be prohibited, in order to be sanctioned, you'd have to be attempting to deposit it on the property, on the ground, et cetera.
Through the chair,
Yes.
what responsibility do the people who drive by with their cars and throw those things out, what responsibility do they take? Because a few of the older people on my block actually take the bills to their house to them because they don't really come out too often. What kind of responsibility? Because, I mean, most of them can't get down to the driveway sometime. So I'm trying to understand, how does that impact them as well?
Impact the people who throw it out of the car or impact the homeowner?
Both, because I didn't ask you to throw that on my property, but it's on there. So, you know, for the people that can't get out to get them off their property, and it goes into the drain and so forth because of the rain and so forth.
That would be a violation under this ordinance. Somebody just throwing it out of the car window and depositing on the property or on the street would be a violation, as opposed to, I think, what Mr. Pia asked, which was people going door to door and handing, passing out notices or handbills, et cetera. It would not, per se, affect the homeowner, because the homeowner was not the one that initiated it. It was the person who threw it from the vehicle onto the ground.
Because I've seen it sit there for days on days, sometime a week, and I would just pick it up and throw it out if it's all damaged from being wet, or if it's not damaged, I would knock on the door and say, hey, they left this in your driveway. So I just want to make sure people are not being impacted. Also, when you go down to 133-16, violations, it went from 100 to 250 is the starting fine, because I see 100 is crossed out, but it says no more than 250. So
that's correct. That's the proposal. That's as part of the amendment of this ordinance.
So it was 100.
Yes.
So why are we going so high?
To prevent it from happening.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that that's the case. I didn't specifically speak to the administration regarding that point, but I assume it's as more of a hammer to prevent this from happening.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Chris.
I got red light now, through the chair.
Go ahead.
I actually did have a conversation with the administration, in one of the, especially pertaining to the $350 fine, it actually costs more to bring, and this, I witnessed this firsthand, that's why this conversation came up, it costs more to bring an old box spring mattress to the Stratford transfer station and dump it off and pay than it is to throw it out on the street and have Public Works pick it up. And that was one of the major, because I witnessed that this summer. And that was one of those what are we doing type conversations, so that if someone is seen throwing a box spring mattress out of a flatbed pickup on a town road, we can find them, versus them bringing it. So,
I mean, I understand that. I think we're talking about like little differences, because someone who drops out of a truck is definitely illegal because they need to go to a dump. Right. But if someone on their property move it to the curb and they expect them to get picked up, is different. Or if a home is vacated,
agreed,
and they pull all the stuff out and sit it on the front porch, Yeah. So that's different. Yes, sir. So thank you.
So to be clear, the person who would receive the fine would be whoever the vendor is or the company is.
The perpetrator of the littering, yes, not the homeowner.
Not the homeowner. So you would have to get the literature to figure out who it was.
Yes.
Somebody would send them a citation or whatever.
Through the chair, once again, I just want to make sure that those kind of violations are clearly specified here so that the homeowner is not infected by those people who do that onto the property. Because I don't see the language here to say that. Maybe
Well, it doesn't specifically say that homeowners shall not be charged.
Well,
what it does is it talks about prohibited activities, and if you look at those prohibited activities, the language is geared toward the persons who actually commit those prohibited activities.
Thank you.
Okay, more discussion. Go ahead.
I apologize. Thank you, Chair. Just to run through a scenario. Somebody drives down the street, they're throwing handbills in front of everyone's yard. One of us takes a photograph of it and makes a report to the Black Ops. Is that the scope of our responsibility as citizens?
Yeah, I don't know what else you do. You know, you're not going to restrain the person and make a citizen's arrest. So yeah, I would say that would be the extent of your responsibility. Let me call your attention to one thing, and as I said before, and we'll clean it up before you send it over to the council, if that's your wish. Originally, the blight enforcement officer was going to be added to the mayor or his designee, but after my conversation this morning with the mayor's office, we thought it might be better to strike the blight enforcement officer and simply leave it as the enforcement agent will be the mayor or his designee, meaning that the mayor can designate whichever official or agency within town that she feels should handle this without the need to come back and change an ordinance.
Also, I have a recommendation.
Madam Chair, I'd like to call the vote.
I just wanted to make one more comment, and then we could do that. I think throughout this ordinance, wherever it says the mayor or his, that be switched to his/her or their designation, and like just.
Madam Chairman, I can't be sure, and I don't have the code right in front of me, but I think there's a general provision in the code that says something like, whenever you see a, you're going to get me, my English teachers are going to kill me, but is his or hers, are they pronouns? Is that what they are? Wherever you see a masculine pronoun, it should be read to be both masculine and female.
Okay.
I think there's a general provision like that in the code.
If that's the case, then that's fine. I just thought that maybe it would be a good time to clarify that.
Can I ask the town attorney on a different subject on here? 182-2, under definitions, there's reference to the recycling committee, which currently is not a functioning committee.
I didn't see that, but you're absolutely correct. The recycling committee was abolished years ago.
Oh, it was formally abolished?
Yes. 182-2?
Right, page 19.
Page 19.
Recycling committee. So that's going to be deleted?
Find it, John?
No, I'm looking, but page 19?
Right. Right down at the bottom.
I don't have anything like that on page 19.
I don't have a page number on mine, but.
Second one up, the bottom, and then you turn the page, it breaks down more.
Okay, I see that. Yeah, I'm going to have to take a look at that because I'm going to have to take a look at that and see. The recycling committee was abolished, and so if there are any other references within the ordinance to the recycling committee, we should change those.
B-1. I don't have page numbers on mine.
John, can we,
I just took the color.
Of course, recycling, this amendment is not amending 182-2, so
That-
we're going to have to take a look at that exactly. I mean, the recycling committee should be eliminated, and we need to do whatever should be done in order to eliminate its reference in any of these ordinances.
so Madam Chair, through the
Yes.
chair. So Attorney Fleur, can we move the motion that Mr. Connor made to vote on this, to send it to the council pending
edits?
edits from you regarding the recycling committee section.
Yes, there's no problem with that. The ordinance committee, this hearing and this committee is set up in order to have a more full discussion than you could have on the general council agenda. But there's certainly no prohibition against discussing it and making further changes at the council level.
Okay, is there a motion for that?
Motion to change whatever needs to be changed by the lawyer before the council meeting.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
And that's an amendment to the motion to refer to the committee with a favorable, or the council with a favorable recommendation?
Right.
Yes.
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 With the edits as we've discussed, we have a motion and a second and a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you all. And the last item on our agenda is adjournment. All in favor? Aye. I think we should sit here more. Thank you.